There she was, Melissa Crane, 52, in her signature leopard print robe and weathered UGG boots, standing on my porch like some kind of deranged suburban banshee. She was screaming that her Tesla had been possessed by Satan because her dashboard lit up like a Vegas slot machine. And there I stood, mug of black coffee in hand, wondering if now was the time to finally tell her the truth. She'd been siphoning electricity from my house for weeks, and I had just given her a little something extra to chew on. No, this isn't a movie. This is Timber Falls Estates, Redstone County, where a fake badge and a fake title can turn a quiet neighborhood into a twisted HOA drama. Freeze frame. Yep, that's me. Jack Whitmore, 44, retired mechanical engineer, vintage railway enthusiast, lover of peace and quiet. Until Melissa and the Timber Falls Neighborhood Council, TFNC, tried to turn my life into a dystopian sitcom. She wasn't just a busybody. Melissa, or as she demanded we call her, Madam Vice President, was a power-tripping opportunist. The day I moved in, she left a typed letter, who even does that anymore, on my door. It warned that visible tools and construction materials violated the TFNC's visual harmony standards. I'd lived here for 6 hours. I hadn't even finished unloading my truck. At first, I laughed it off. Some people need control like plants need sunlight. But Melissa wasn't just controlling. She was strategic. She cited me for mailbox height, flagged my trash cans for being too exposed, and submitted complaints about unauthorized tool storage in my garage. I still hadn't even unpacked my toaster. But the final straw came when my power bill jumped by $182 in 1 month. I ran a full systems check, everything normal. Then, I checked my Ring camera. That's when I noticed it. My outdoor outlet cover was slightly ajar. At first, I blamed wind or raccoons. Then, at 11:47 p.m., a sleek white Tesla backed into my driveway. A cable snaked from my outlet to her car, like it was some public EV charging station. Out stepped Melissa, bathrobe flapping, phone flashlight in hand, looking like she was sneaking into Area 51. I watched the footage in disbelief. She did it the next night, too. And again after that. Sometimes during the day. One afternoon, she even parked diagonally across my driveway, cord stretched like an electric umbilical cord. No shame, no heads up, just raw entitlement. So I did what any tech-savvy, vengeance-loving engineer would do. I started collecting evidence. I installed a Wi-Fi-enabled power monitor. Over 2 weeks, Melissa's car drew nearly 70 kilowatt-hours from my outlet, about $174 worth. That's when I decided to confront her. I stayed calm, polite even. She blinked at me like I'd asked for her social security number. "Oh, I thought that was a shared community outlet," she said with that classic faux innocence. I pointed to the sealed cover, the conduit running directly into my breaker panel. Her reply? "Well, you don't even drive an EV. What do you need it for?" I zip-tied the cover shut. 2 days later, she clipped the tie. I changed the lock. The next morning, I found fresh scratches on the box. She tried to break in again. Then came the kicker. Melissa filed a complaint with the TFNC, accusing me of tampering with neighborhood utilities. I received a formal warning and a $200 fine for obstructing community energy resources. That's when I knew I wasn't up against a nosy neighbor. I was up against a suburban tyrant with a fake council and a real thirst for power. So I went full engineer. I repurposed an old irrigation box and wired a custom low-voltage relay inside. Non-lethal, of course, just enough to scramble her car's sensors. 5 minutes after she plugged in again, her Tesla went haywire, headlights flickering, dashboard screaming like it had just seen a ghost. And that's when she stormed my porch screaming about satanic energy surges. But here's the best part. While she panicked over her haunted Tesla, the irrigation line she'd tapped into, my private well, was about to activate. Pressurized sewage. Straight into her decorative planters. And that, my friend, was only the beginning. The next morning, I noticed something strange. The lock on my outdoor outlet had a fresh scratch, like someone tried to force it open. The box itself looked like it had taken a hit. That was bold, brazen, and I knew exactly who it was. Sure enough, by the afternoon, I got a letter slipped under my door from the Timber Falls Neighborhood Council, TFNC. A formal warning and a $200 fine for obstructing community electrical access. I actually laughed out loud. Then I stopped laughing. Then I spent the next 2 days poring over the TFNC charter like I was decoding the Dead Sea Scrolls. And wouldn't you know it, buried in vague legalese was a clause that said any exterior utility elements visible from the public roadway may be subject to community easement review. That little phrase? That was her weapon. Melissa Crane, 52, self-declared vice president of the TFNC and queen of loopholes, had somehow twisted it into proof that my outlet, the one hardwired to my panel and installed before I even bought the house, was now communal infrastructure. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just a nosy neighbor on a power trip. This was a full-blown petty tyrant playing HOA overlord in a gated kingdom of retirees and garden gnomes. I knew unplugging her wouldn't cut it. Too quick. Too forgettable. No, I needed her to feel it. To understand what happens when you keep stealing power from someone who builds circuits for fun. So I got to work. I gutted an old irrigation control box. You know the kind, fake green plastic meant to blend into lawns, and rebuilt the interior from scratch. Inside, I installed a custom low-voltage relay system. Completely harmless, but designed to trip every single sensor in a Tesla's onboard diagnostics. It would send the dashboard into a flickering, chiming frenzy for 5 solid minutes. To any normal person, it'd feel like the car was haunted. I synced the trigger to a motion sensor and tucked everything back into the box so cleanly it looked factory-made. Then I waited. Sure enough, one night later, Melissa backed in, robe on, phone flashlight waving, like she was sneaking into a crime scene. She plugged in and strolled away, totally unaware. 5 minutes later, the show started. First, the headlights blinked twice. Then the dash lit up like Christmas in Vegas. The touchscreen glitched like a corrupted VHS tape. The stereo chimed random warnings, including one that just said, "System anomaly." It was beautiful. Melissa came running, screaming, yanking the cord like it was electrified. She stomped to my porch, drenched in panic, waving her phone and yelling about demonic sabotage. I sipped my coffee, nodded slowly. But the best part? That wasn't all I had rigged. See, what Melissa didn't realize was that her garden's new irrigation system, the one she secretly hooked to my private well, was programmed to kick on 30 seconds later. And this time, instead of fresh water, it sprayed pressurized sewage, redirected from a harmless graywater loop I'd warned her not to touch. Her decorative planters? Fertilized by poetic justice. She screamed louder than the car alarms. Honestly, it was art. Now, you might think she'd finally back off after being caught red-handed, pants down, in front of the entire neighborhood. You'd be wrong. The next day, she was back on the cul-de-sac with a clipboard, warning people that an electrical anarchist was targeting EV owners in Timber Falls. Her words, not mine. She told folks that I was using experimental frequencies to sabotage Teslas. She even accused me of spiritually compromising communal goodwill, whatever that means. Then she filed another complaint with the TFNC board, claiming I had endangered her property, interfered with her right to clean energy, and launched an unprovoked electromagnetic campaign of harassment. I didn't know whether to laugh or build a tinfoil hat. But here's what I've learned. When someone like Melissa gets caught and still doubles down, it's not bravery, it's delusion. She thought the HOA would always back her because they had before. But that's the thing about illusions. Once you break them, they don't come back. And her illusion? It was starting to crack. I don't even think Melissa knew what half of her accusations meant. And I'm pretty sure the TFNC didn't either. But like clockwork, the Timber Falls Neighborhood Council did what they always did when Madam Vice President cried wolf. They sent me a sharply worded letter. It threatened legal action if I tampered with shared neighborhood infrastructure again. Not one word about how Melissa had been plugging into my house like it was a public utility. No apology for the bogus fine they'd already stuck me with. Just another passive-aggressive slap on the wrist and a clear message. Melissa's always right, and I should be grateful for the abuse. So, I did what any self-respecting engineer would do. I got smarter. I upgraded. I installed a new smart power monitoring system, top of the line. It tracked real-time usage, sent push alerts, and logged everything down to the second. Then I hooked it to a motion-triggered camera feeding straight to my phone and cloud backup. I even wrote a little applet to ping me every time the outlet was accessed. And then, I waited. It didn't take long. Despite the Tesla tantrum and the so-called electrical sabotage she was wailing about, Melissa came crawling back. Not right away. She gave it 3 days, maybe testing the waters. But on night 4, just after midnight, her Tesla crept up my driveway like a raccoon scoping out leftovers. She parked crooked, like always. Stepped out, looked around, plugged in, and I watched the whole thing live, sitting on my couch, sipping hot chocolate, laughing to myself. Only this time, there was no flicker show, no fake surge. The outlet wasn't booby-trapped anymore, at least not electrically. Now the trap was all about evidence. Over the next 10 days, she returned 9 more times, always late at night, always thinking she was slick. She tried to park at angles that avoided the camera. Too bad I had 3 now, all with crystal clear 4K footage. One even caught her yawning mid-plug-in. So when the next TFNC meeting rolled around and Melissa stood up, voice quivering with faux outrage, accusing me of being a neighborhood menace, I let her talk. She ranted about targeted spiritual sabotage and claimed her Tesla had never recovered. She waved around a diagnostic report showing voltage fluctuations and touchscreen glitches. I stayed quiet, calm, smiling. Then I raised my hand. May I have the floor? I walked to the front of the room, pulled out my remote, and fired up the projector. Slide 1. Footage of Melissa plugging into my outlet. Date and timestamp. Slide 2. Power usage charts with clear peaks labeled Tesla charging spike. Slide 3. A beautiful gallery of all 9 illegal charges. One by one. Her face visible in every single frame. And just because I like a little flair, I added some dramatic music. Nothing over the top, just enough to make it feel like a documentary expose. You could hear the air get sucked out of the room. Melissa's smug smile evaporated. The TFNC president's jaw dropped slightly. The treasurer choked on his coffee. Even Barry, the older guy who only shows up for donuts, muttered, "Well, hell, that's just brilliant." But I wasn't done. I passed around printed statements showing her total power usage, 74 kilowatt hours, enough to run a hot tub for a month. I even included the dollar amount, $187.24, neatly itemized. Then came the kicker. I revealed the schematic for my deterrent device, the one she'd claimed was a weapon. I explained how it worked, showed my provisional patent, and read out the review it got from a national electrical safety forum. Completely legal. Totally harmless. Less voltage than static from a doorknob. Melissa tried to interrupt. I raised a single finger. Also, I added, Tesla's own diagnostics show no permanent damage to her vehicle. Just temporary confusion. The room went silent. 10 long seconds. Then someone in the back let out a low whistle. Melissa looked like she wanted to evaporate on the spot. And in that moment, for the first time since she started her reign of HOA terror, it was crystal clear. Her power wasn't just flickering. It was fading. Melissa Crane lost it, full meltdown mode. She called me a sociopath, accused me of stalking her, and demanded that the Timber Falls Neighborhood Council, TFNC, remove me from the community for the safety of the residents. Somewhere in the back, someone muttered, "Lady, you've been robbing his house at night. Maybe don't talk about stalking." The room broke into quiet laughter. Even the TFNC president looked like he was biting the inside of his cheek to keep from grinning. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Melissa was officially stripped of her vice president title. The board issued me a formal apology for the baseless fines they'd thrown at me earlier and removed them from my record. They also updated the TFNC charter to clearly define private utility outlets as homeowner property, not communal energy-sharing stations. But the best part? Melissa was ordered to reimburse me for every kilowatt hour she stole. She had 30 days to pay. If she didn't, the TFNC would double the amount and file a lien on her property. You could practically see her soul leave her body when they said the word lien. She snatched her leopard print purse and stormed out of the clubhouse like a defeated villain in a soap opera, her sandals slapping the tile like punctuation marks on a retreat. That should have been the end. Honestly, anyone else would have taken the hint. Public disgrace, a revoked title, and a financial slap to the face. But Melissa Crane wasn't wired like a normal person. Exactly 1 week later, I found a mysterious letter in my mailbox. No return address. It accused me of harboring unregistered electromagnetic devices and destabilizing the neighborhood's energy harmony. I laughed so hard I nearly pulled a muscle. But that night, my motion sensors pinged. I opened my camera feed, half expecting a possum. Nope. It was Melissa. in fuzzy slippers and a windbreaker, dragging a garden hose across my gravel side yard like she was auditioning for the worst Ocean's 11 reboot ever made. I blinked. What kind of logic led her to this moment? Was she planning to water my driveway? Or maybe short-circuit my outlet in a vengeful attempt to fry my smart grid? Either way, this wasn't gardening. It was sabotage. She crept up to my irrigation box. Yes, the same one I had once weaponized with sewage to return her little water theft favor, and started fiddling with the latches. And that's when it hit me. She was trying to reverse sabotage me. Except unlike me, she had no idea what she was touching. And she was about to find out. See, after the Tesla chaos and her public HOA dethroning, I had upgraded everything. New lock, hidden camera inside the box, motion sensors embedded in the soil. I'd been waiting for retaliation. It was inevitable. But I didn't expect it to be so soon, or so hilariously incompetent. I watched as she yanked the hose around, tried to jam it into a port that didn't exist, and then attempted to twist a decorative cap I'd installed just to throw off idiots like her. The real access point? Buried under a reinforced waterproof panel. But Melissa, in all her midnight brilliance, was convinced she was about to hack my waterline. She grunted, cursed under her breath, and smacked the box with the side of her flashlight like she thought brute force would work. And that's when I activated the sprinkler system. There are few things more satisfying than poetic justice under pressure. The sprinkler head popped out from a concealed slot and blasted her square in the face with a jet of freezing water. She screamed. Not just a yelp, this was a full-body shriek. She slipped on the wet gravel, landed on her back like a cartoon villain, and flailed as the hose wrapped around her legs. Her windbreaker soaked, her hair plastered to her cheeks. She scrambled to her feet and sprinted back to her yard like she was being chased by ghosts. I didn't even have to leave my couch. Just me, a warm blanket, a cup of chamomile, and the sweet, sweet satisfaction of watching karma work on schedule. The next morning, I got another TFNC letter. Melissa had called for an emergency conduct hearing. Of course she had. But this time, I was ready. And this time, the neighborhood was watching. Melissa landed flat on her back, the garden hose coiling around her like a defeated python in a made-for-TV disaster. The second her spine hit the wet gravel, she shrieked, hair soaked, mascara running, looking like she'd just been electrocuted by a rogue car battery. She scrambled to her feet, slipped once more for good measure, then bolted back across the lawn without even glancing over her shoulder. I didn't even have to get up from the couch. It was perfect. The next morning, a letter from the Timber Falls Neighborhood Council, TFNC, arrived like clockwork. A community conduct review, it said in bold red font. Translation? Melissa had yanked the fire alarm again. I showed up to the clubhouse in jeans and a hoodie, expecting another amateur hour. And boy, did I get a show. Melissa was already there, dressed like she was about to testify before Congress. Dramatic scarf, giant sunglasses, clutching a tissue like it was a lifeline. She launched into her performance, claimed she'd been violently attacked by malicious sprinkler activity while conducting a routine community inspection. She accused me of booby-trapping my lawn and weaponizing irrigation infrastructure. It was like watching someone try to sue the rain for making them wet. But this time, the board wasn't buying it. I calmly submitted video footage from my cameras, clear as day. Melissa, trespassing at 2:06 a.m., dragging a hose through my side yard, tampering with my irrigation box. No flashlight, no clipboard, no plausible excuse. She wasn't inspecting. She was casing the joint. Still, she wouldn't quit. She whipped out printouts from neighborhood Facebook groups, trying to paint me as the local villain. Claimed I was orchestrating a digital harassment campaign and that her Tesla had developed electromagnetic anxiety. Yes, those were her exact words. Then came the theatrics. She slammed down a stack of papers, Tesla diagnostics, conspiracy-laced articles about wireless frequencies, and a petition titled "Remove the Hacker from Timber Falls Estates." It had 4 signatures, her dog groomer, and 2 residents who thought they were signing up for a composting seminar. The room was silent. The TFNC president cleared his throat. "Jack," he said, "do you have anything to add?" I didn't say a word. I just played the security footage of Melissa getting blasted in the face by the hidden sprinkler. The instant the water hit her, the room cracked. A single laugh turned into a snort, then a chuckle, then a full ripple of stifled laughter. Even Barry, the guy who only ever shows up for the coffee and donuts, leaned back and said, "That's karma," with a pressure nozzle. Melissa turned beet red. She stood up, called the meeting biased and corrupt, and stormed out for the second time in 2 weeks. But this time, the TFNC issued an official censure, not to me, but to her. She was warned that any further trespassing or false reports would result in legal action. Just like that, I thought I'd finally won. Dethroned the self-declared queen of Timber Falls. Built myself a fortress of petty revenge and come out the other side. But Melissa? She doesn't know how to quit. Instead of attacking me head-on, she pivoted to the shadows. Whisper campaigns. Cryptic flyers at the mailbox. Anonymous posts about electrical mind control and energy manipulation. She even reported my house to the city inspector, claiming I had unpermitted devices that posed a community risk. Spoiler alert, my permits were airtight. I keep everything by the book. Still, it was annoying, like being bitten by a mosquito that knows your full name. Then, late one Thursday, came the knock. Not Melissa, not a TFNC board member. A guy in a Tesla-branded blazer, polite, clipboard in hand. Said he was with Tesla's customer integrity department. Apparently, Melissa had filed a formal complaint with Tesla itself, claiming my outlet had permanently damaged her vehicle's soul, caused phantom glitches, and made it play unfamiliar music. She wanted compensation, a new car, maybe even damages for emotional distress. They were obligated to investigate. I invited him in, made him coffee, sat him down, and then I told him the story. Every glorious detail. I gave him coffee, sat him down, and walked him through the entire saga. Every surveillance video, every detailed power log, even the circuit diagram for my harmless little surge relay. The guy from Tesla's customer integrity department listened carefully, occasionally raising an eyebrow. When I was done, he shook his head slowly and said, "We've handled a lot of customer complaints, but this is something else." He thanked me, assured me there would be no further action from Tesla, and left with a look that said he wasn't sure if he'd just witnessed a suburban soap opera or a tech-themed thriller. 3 days later, Melissa's Tesla was flagged by Tesla's own system for electrical inconsistency. Her profile was marked for restricted support, meaning anytime she called, her claims would get routed through extra scrutiny and skepticism. She didn't know it yet, but she was now officially labeled a high-maintenance liability in Tesla's internal system. That was about to become painfully clear, because the next weekend was the annual Timber Falls holiday block party and decorating contest. Everyone was there, families, kids, even the TFNC board pretending like nothing had ever happened. And right on cue, Melissa Crane, 52, pulled up in her Tesla like it was still her badge of suburban royalty. She parked front and center, like she was showcasing a prize-winning golden retriever. That's when it happened. Someone asked, "Hey Melissa, why does your center console flicker when you use Bluetooth now?" Her face locked up, frozen. She mumbled something about rogue frequencies and tried to wave it off. But the crowd wasn't letting it go. Another neighbor chuckled, "Maybe it's haunted again." Then someone pulled out their phone and said, "Didn't this guy pointing at me catch her stealing power?" Melissa turned slowly and saw me, leaning against my fence, sipping sweet tea, grinning like I just watched the twist ending of a movie I already knew by heart. And that's when it hit her. This wasn't just about the HOA anymore. It wasn't just about the evidence or the fines. The neighborhood itself had turned. And Melissa? Melissa was running out of places to hide. There's a funny thing about people like her. They thrive on the assumption that no one will ever push back. That they can lie, manipulate, intimidate, and gaslight their way through life because most people are too polite or too exhausted to challenge them. But once that illusion cracks, once the curtain's pulled back and the truth gets a spotlight, the collapse is swift and loud. After the block party, things changed. Neighbors who used to smile and wave at Melissa began looking the other way. The TFNC board started quietly excluding her from meetings. Her beloved Tesla, the same one that once symbolized her smug dominance, became the subject of gossip. Still glitching. She tried another service center. The support flag followed her. They said, "We'll look into it, but we all know what that means." Translation: "Lady, we know who you are." But Melissa wasn't the type to bow out gracefully. If her reign was ending, she was going to make sure it ended in spectacle. That's when the flyers started showing up. Handwritten, paranoid rants taped to mailboxes, stuffed into screen doors. Claims of electrical sabotage, energy warfare, and mind control frequencies. One even suggested I'd build a mind control tower in my garage. Newsflash, I don't have a tower. I have a Wi-Fi extender. Then came the desperate attempt to sell her house. First, a casual post in a community forum asking for a good real estate agent. Then a for sale by owner sign popped up in her yard and disappeared 2 days later. I figured she was finally reading the room. What I didn't expect was why the house wouldn't sell. It wasn't the market. It was me. Well, not directly. I hadn't said a word to any potential buyers. I didn't post anything. I didn't sabotage a thing. But somehow, and I truly have no idea how, a video compilation surfaced online. A fully edited, captioned, and musically scored montage titled Melissa's Free Ride, How One Woman Stole Electricity and Blamed Demons. I still don't know who made it. Could have been a neighbor. Could have been someone from the local Facebook moms group, where it got shared. Then Reddit. Then a YouTube channel that specializes in petty revenge stories. Within days, it had over 500,000 views. By the time a real estate agent tried to list her property officially, the comments section was chaos. One person asked if the haunted Tesla came with the house. Another wanted to know if the electrical portal was still open. Eventually, Zillow had to disable comments altogether. And Melissa? She was unraveling. The video took off like wildfire. A petty revenge YouTube channel featured the saga, complete with dramatic music and sharp captions. Within days, it had over 500,000 views. By the time a real estate agent officially tried listing Melissa Crane's house, the comments were already flooding in. One guy asked, "Does the haunted outlet come with the home?" Another joked, "Is the Tesla pre-haunted, or do you have to summon the ghost yourself?" It got so bad, Zillow had to temporarily disable the comment section. Melissa tried to shift the narrative, of course. She told neighbors she was leaving for a career opportunity out of state, and that Timber Falls had become too toxic. But no one bought it. Every open house she hosted saw mysteriously low turnouts. A few people showed up just to see the yard from the video. One person even recognized the porch from the freeze frame and whispered, "This is the place." After that, Melissa stopped hosting them entirely. Meanwhile, on my side of the fence, life was thriving. My smart home project was nearly complete. The solar panels were finally installed and operating flawlessly. But the real jewel? My password-protected outlet system, fully integrated into my smart grid. If a neighbor wanted to plug in a phone or even an EV, all they had to do was ask politely. If they had the password, they were good to go. I called it Power to the Polite. People loved it. Even the TFNC board called it Forward-Thinking Community Energy Stewardship. They invited me to consult on how to roll it out across Timber Falls estates. Melissa was not invited to that meeting. Now, you might think that's where the story ends. That she packed up, slunk away, and the neighborhood went back to normal. But if you followed along this far, you know Melissa doesn't do normal. Or shame. There was one last twist. Every year, Timber Falls holds a massive holiday decorating contest. Lights, music, inflatables, the whole thing. Melissa had won 2 years in a row, mostly through intimidation, politics, and guilt-tripping the judges. But this year, I decided to enter. Just for fun. My theme? Sleek, modern, and solar-powered. Clean lines of white LEDs, subtle twinkling motion, and in the middle of my front yard, a simple backlit sign that read, "This house is powered by the sun, not the neighbors." It was a hit. Neighbors took photos with it. Kids posed in front of it. Someone made t-shirts. It became the unofficial slogan of Timber Falls for the season. I didn't win first place, though. That went to the guy with the inflatable Santa that did backflips. Second place went to a teenager who covered his entire house in aluminum foil and labeled it Budget Bling with duct tape. I came in third. Melissa? Fourth. That was her breaking point. 1 week later, a moving truck showed up in front of her house. No farewell posts. No dramatic announcements. Just silence. She was gone by sunrise. Her Tesla was loaded onto a flatbed trailer. She didn't even drive it. I stood on my porch with my morning coffee, watching the whole thing with quiet satisfaction, not because she left, but because she'd finally run out of stories, excuses, and lies. No more haunted dashboards. No more flyers. No more HOA drama masquerading as authority. A few weeks later, her house finally sold. The new owners? A retired couple from Colorado. Sweet folks. The husband's first words to me. "So, is that outlet story real?" I laughed and told him the whole tale. He shook his head and said, "Well, that's one way to meet the neighbors." Then he added, "Mind if I get the password for that charging setup?" I smiled, handed him a little laminated card, and welcomed them to the neighborhood. Now, every time I walk through Timber Falls, people wave. They ask for tech advice. Some even bring over cookies in exchange for a quick smart home tip. One guy calls me the HOA whisperer. I'm still not sure if that's a compliment, but I'll take it. What started as a petty conflict over stolen electricity turned into something bigger, a shift in how this neighborhood functions. A reminder that sometimes, standing up to the bully changes more than just your own story. It sets a new tone for everyone. As for Melissa, last I heard, she was trying to sue Tesla for emotional distress. Something about her new car randomly switching radio stations and vibrating with energy. Personally, I hope it plays the same 3 songs on repeat. Preferably High Voltage by AC/DC. And me? I'm finally getting the peace and quiet I came here for. No more fines. No more sabotage. Just the gentle hum of solar panels, the occasional motion sensor ping. And the sweet knowledge that if anyone ever tries to steal from my outlet again, let's just say, I still have the circuit. And it's ready to party.